Lagos, the nation's commercial capital. This is the News at 10. Live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Ayotunde Balogun.
Tonight, the presidential election petition court demands proof from Labour Party that it served INEC resident electoral commissioners summons to provide electoral documents. Abuja High Court fixes July the 13th for ruling in the enforcement of fundamental rights suit filed by the suspended governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele. PDP National Working Committee meets in Abuja to review its performance during the February 2023 general elections with a view to kickstarting a reconciliation process.
On business news tonight, African Bank signs $400 million agreement with a private company to develop industrial parks and special economic zones in several African countries, including Nigeria.
On sports news tonight, the Federation comes to a close on Wednesday when Bendel Insurance faces Enugu Rangers in the final clash in Asaba, Delta State.
From Abuja, the nation's capital, the Catholic Archbishop of Abuja Diocese, Archbishop Ignatius Kaigama, extols the virtues of the founder of Dark Communications PLC, Raymond Dokwesi, during a Requiem Mass in his honor in Abuja.
And in international news from London, search teams are racing against time to find a tourist submarine that went missing during a dive to the wreck of the Titanic.
We begin with legal matters and at the presidential election petition court, where the table seems to have turned as the tribunal is challenging the Labour Party to present proof that it served INEC resident electoral commissioners across the country summons to provide electoral documents. The court made the demand at today's proceedings as the Labour Party insisted that the electoral body INEC was frustrating its case by deliberately evading summons. Our correspondent, Emanuela Ekele, reports.
The Presidential Election Petition Court resumes sitting to hear the petitions of the Labour Party and the People's Democratic Party, challenging the victory of President Bola Tinubu at the presidential election. The presidential candidate of the Labour Party, Mr. Peter Obi, is present alongside some members of the party to witness the day's proceedings. Lawyers patiently wait in the field courtroom for the commencement of the sitting. The five-man panel of justices arrive and call the first case for the day. On the Labour Party's petition, the justices asked the party to present proof that it served INEC resident electoral commissioners in the 36 states and the FCT summoned to provide electoral documents, following persistent calls that the electoral body was deliberately frustrating its case. The five-member panel says it's clear that the Labour Party never issued subpoenas on the resident electoral commissioners in the state, where it is seeking documents. Counsel to Labour Party Levi Uzuaku had informed the court that INEC chairman Mahmoud Yakubu had given his commitment that all electoral documents will be made available on demand from the recs. But the court stated that the party did not explore Section 74 of the Electoral Act, which states that they must, on demand, provide documents within 14 days to the said party or pay a fine of 2 million naira or imprisonment, or both for defaulters. The court says it's clear that the party didn't lodge a complaint on the delay of the document and has also failed to apply the penalty clause as stipulated in Section 74. Meanwhile, under cross-examination for the party, a witness, Clarissa Oga, who is a staff of Amazon, admitted to being caught in her own capacity. She says there was no technical glitch on the INEC server during the presidential election. She, however, admits that glitches can occur at any time while using the Amazon software and application. The court stood on its proceedings and reconvened at 2 p.m. At the resumed hearing, the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party, Atiku Abubakar, and his party told the court that they will close a case challenging the declaration of President Bola Tinubu as a winner of the presidential election on Thursday. According to a pre-hearing report, the petitioners were supposed to close the case on Tuesday, but the lead counsel, Chris Uche, brought to the notice of the court that they lost 2 days out of the days allotted to them and asked that the days be returned to them. The petitioners have so far called 25 witnesses out of the 100 witnesses they proposed. He says they might call additional 5 witnesses to have a round figure of 30 witnesses called. The counsel to PDP says that some of the documents to be tendered in the remaining 2 days will take the place of the remaining 70 witnesses. The 5-member panel of justices, led by Justice Haruna Samani, adjourned till Wednesday, June 21, for continuation of hearing in the petitions. Emanuela Ekele, Channels Television News.
To the judiciary, an Abuja High Court has fixed July the 13th this year for ruling in the enforcement of fundamental rights suit filed by the suspended governor of the CBN, that's the Central Bank of Nigeria, Mr. Godwin Emefiele. Justice Hamza Muazu fixed the date after listening to submissions made by parties in the matter. Mr. Emefiele had approached the FCT High Court in Abuja, challenging his detention by the Department of State Services, DSS. A lawyer to the suspended CBN governor, Mr. Joseph Daudu, in his argument faulted the preliminary objection raised against the suit by the respondents, insisting that the offences listed against the suspended CBN governor are state offences that can be entertained by the FCT High Court. Counsel representing the Attorney General of the Federation, Tijani Ghazali, on his part informed the court that the office of the AGF is challenging the jurisdiction of the court to hear the case brought before it by the applicant. He explains that Mr. Emefiele's arrest and detention by the Department of State Services is an administrative decision of an arm of the executive, and Mr. Emefiele is being detained on the order of an FCT Chief Magistrate Court. On their part, lawyers to the Director General of the Department of State Services and the DSS, listed as the second and third respondents, informed the court that there is a subsisting order to detain the applicant, and therefore urged the court to dismiss the application with cost. In another legal matter, a federal high court sitting in Abuja has fixed July the 20th this year for ruling on the application filed by the counsel to pro-Biafra agitator Mr. Nnamdi Kanu, asking the court to compel the Department of State Services to allow him access to a medical doctor of his choice. At the hearing of the suit filed by Mr. Kanu, a lawyer to the detained leader of the proscribed indigenous people of Biafra, Mr. Mike Ozekome, informed the court that the IPOB leader requires urgent ear surgery. Mr. Ozekome explained that the DSS has repeatedly refused to grant Mr. Kanu access to his personal doctor and has also refused to release his medical records. But counsel to the DSS argued that Mr. Kanu was being given proper feeding and medical attention while in DSS custody.
At that meeting, I told the Director of Legal Services, after we had brainstormed for more than 1 hour as to how and why such a short surgery will be done. And the meeting was actually instigated by my letter to the DSS that Nnamdi Kanu should be allowed to have this is ear surgery based on your own medical report. The SSS itself, their doctor, their in-house doctor, checked his ear in November 2022 and found that it was having some blockage, and that there was a need to operate on this ear before he gets deaf. I therefore wrote to the SSS to let us meet, and they approved our meeting. And we met with the Director of Legal Services of SSS. The 2 in-house medical doctors, a male and female, were there, and some other top officials of SSS were there.
Staying with the judiciary, an appeal court in Port Harcourt, River State, has set aside a bench warrant of arrest issued against the former governor of the state, Rotimi Amechi, and 2 others. The others are the governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress in the 2023 general elections, Tonya Cole, and the Commissioner for Power in the Amechi administration, Austin Wokocha. The ruling followed an appeal filed by Amechi and the others seeking the setting aside of the order by a lower court. Justice Abdulaziz Waziri, who read the ruling that was prepared by the presiding judge of the court, Joseph Ikeg, said the order by the lower court was made in defiance of the Court of Appeal. He read that the order of arrest was given when there was already an application before the appeal court by Mr. Rotimi Amechi challenging the service of information on him pursuant to Section 313 of the Administration of Criminal Justice Law in the state. It's a time of reflection for the People's Democratic Party, the PDP, which has held its post-elections National Working Committee meeting at the party's National Secretariat in Abuja to review the party's performance at the February 2023 general elections. The acting national chairman of the party, Mr. Umar Damagum, presided over the meeting, which was attended by some former governors and National Assembly members and members of the PDP Board of Trustees. According to the National Organizing Secretary, the meeting was called to appraise the performances of individuals during the general elections and kickstart a reconciliation process.
Members of the National Working Committee of the People's Democratic Party are meeting with some selected members of various committees in the party to appraise their performances during the 2023 general elections. Some prominent members of the party, including the presidential candidate Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and his running mate, Senator Ifeanyi Okowa, and the former governor of Rivers State, Mr. Nyesom Wike, are absent, even though they were invited to the meeting. The acting national chairman of the party, Mr. Umar Damagum, begins his remarks with a caution, asking members to be mindful of their criticism.
This meeting is going to be an interactive session. And I want us to be cautious of the fact that while making your contribution, we should be mindful of the fact that we are one family. Contribute in a manner that will not hurt the sensibility of this.
The organizing secretary gives a preview of the party's performance during the elections, informing members that the PDP won 342 seats across the state houses of assembly, 116 seats in the House of Representatives, 36 seats in the Senate, and 13 governors. The failure of the PDP to win the presidential election has raised some tension within the party, as some members suggest that those who seem to have worked against the party be expelled. However, this meeting is to douse the tension within the party, as it appears there are no immediate plans to expel anyone from the party.
Everybody here knows what happened in 2023. We contributed individually, we contributed collectively. So what Mr. Chairman said is, if you rise to speak, I beg you to state your own role in 2023 elections, either positive or negative, before you jump to accuse somebody either negative or positive. We are called sort of names because we went to Port Harcourt, and I believe it will come up here. In my state, even today, somebody said we should suspend somebody. I said no. He is free to go to wherever he wants to go. Suspending him means you have acknowledged the fact that he has done bad to the party. Suspension will not be an answer to bad behavior of the party.
This is the first time the PDP is holding this kind of meeting to review its performance at the 2023 general elections.
Meanwhile, the PDP in Imo State says there's no cause for alarm as the party still remains intact and prepared and optimistic of winning the November governorship elections in the state, that's in Imo State, despite the defection to the APC of some of the key offices of its state working committee. Addressing journalists in Owerri, the Imo State capital, the party dismissed the reasons given by the 7 officials who left the party for the ruling party, describing them as false. In part 2 after the break, former Governor Benue State Samuel Otom released after hours of questioning by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in Benue State. That's in the capital, Makurdi. Do join us again.
Hello, darling.
Hi, Grandma.
What did you do this weekend?
Well, on Friday, I went on a science trip with my classmates to see the gorillas in Rwanda. Then, I watched the Cup final in London with the family. And on Saturday, my friends and I met up to hunt dragons again. Also, I taught the vacuum cleaner and the TV this new dance everyone's doing. They're really getting into it. And on Sunday, I went to bed watching the world from space. And you? Yes, so Grandma.
With Airtel 5G's lightning-fast speeds and seamless connectivity, you won't believe what's next. Discover Lipton's flavorful and balanced taste. We pick fine quality tea leaves from selected tea gardens around the world to give you Lipton Yellow Label's flavorful and balanced taste in every sip.
When you have cavities, it hurts so bad it makes you miss school. Even football.
But we prevent cavities before they form with Colgate. Colgate locks calcium in.
Keeps cavities out.
That's right. You too could be one of the 20 Zenith Bank customers that will win 150,000 Naira every 2 weeks from June 1st, 2023 until May 31st, 2024 in the Zenith Better Life Promo 3. To qualify, simply open a Zenith Bank account. For more information, visit www.zenithbank.com/betterlife. Live the better life with Zenith Bank.
When malaria won't show power for your side, it come knock you down. I'm a temp salt gel. Ayua. Me I can tell you no say, malaria medicine when no get bad taste. Oh, bitter taste for mouth and it get easy to swallow. Try. I correct game changer. I'm a temp salt gel.
Say no to malaria. Yes to life.
It's your turn. Now it's your turn.
With Glow, bonus no dey finish. Buy a Glow SIM and enjoy 10 times airtime bonus on top every recharge, plus double data bonus on all data plans.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10, coming to you live from Channels Television. A reminder of our top stories. The presidential election petition court demands proof from Labour Party that it served INEC resident electoral commissioner summons to provide electoral documents. Abuja High Court fixes July the 13th for ruling in the enforcement of fundamental rights suit filed by the suspended governor of the CBN, Mr. Godwin Emefiele. PDP National Working Committee meets in Abuja to review its performance during the February 2023 general elections with a view to kick-starting a reconciliation process. And search teams race against time to find the tourist submersible that went missing during a dive to the wreck of the Titanic. The president has arrived in Paris, France, where he is to join world leaders for a 2-day summit on June the 22nd and 23rd to review and sign a new global financial pact that places vulnerable countries on priority list for support and investment. The president's special advisor, Special Duties, Communication and Strategy, Dele Alake, had explained yesterday that the president will participate in the summit, which will discuss opportunities to restore fiscal space to countries that face difficult short-term financial challenges, especially the most indebted. President Bola Tinubu is expected back in the country on Saturday, June the 24th.
How are you? What's the name? Sorry.
That's the new man in charge of the Nigeria Police, Mr. Kayode Egbetokun, being decorated with his new rank of Inspector General of Police by the Vice President Kashim Shettima, becoming the nation's 22nd IGP. The Vice President performed the ceremony in his office, supported by the new IGP's wife. Other government officials present at the ceremony include the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, Governor of Imo State, Hope Uzodinma, who chairs the Progressive Governors Forum, and the Chief of Staff to the President, Femi Gbajabiamila, as well as the former IGP, Usman Alkali Baba. Speaking after the decoration, the new police chief says he is energized for the job, while his predecessor expressed confidence in the ability of the new man in charge to take the Nigeria Police to the next level.
It's a stage. You come, you walk, and you go. I'm happy I'm handing over to somebody I know that will carry the mantle of leadership from where I have stopped. We grew up in the job. We grew up together. I was his boss at the time, not even when I was IG. He worked under me twice. We've been working together, and I know how he can go ahead to champion the cause of the police from where I have stopped.
I have just been decorated, and I'm looking forward to taking over tomorrow morning by 11 a.m. I really can't describe how I feel presently, but if I have to tell you anything, I will tell you that right now, I feel like a tiger inside of me, ready to chase away all the criminals in Nigeria. And some other time, I feel like a lion in me, ready to devour all the enemies, internal enemies of Nigeria.
Meanwhile, the President has approved the return of the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, and the National Hajj Commission of Nigeria to the Office of the Vice President for supervision in compliance with their various establishment acts. This is contained in a statement from the Office of the Vice President, Kashim Shettima. NEMA was initially a parastatal under the Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, and the Hajj Commission was previously under the supervision of the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation. President Bola Tinubu has also approved a formal structure for the Office of the Vice President, as well as an appropriate number of technical and administrative aides that will work with the Vice President in the discharge of his responsibilities. In the meantime, the governing boards of 2 federal agencies have been exempted from yesterday's dissolution by the President. A statement from the Office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation clarifies that the boards of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency and the National Agency for Food and Drug Administration and Control are excluded from the directive, although no reason was stated. President Bola Tinubu yesterday had approved the dissolution of boards of federal government parastatals, agencies, institutions, and government-owned companies, except those listed in the 3rd Schedule and Section 153, Subsection 1 of the 1999 Constitution, as amended. A former governor of Benue State, Mr. Samuel Ortom, has been freed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, after being questioned for hours over his actions while he was state governor. Mr. Ortom was said to have honored an invitation by the anti-graft agency earlier today, but was detained after arriving at the Makurdi office of the EFCC. The PDP in Benue State has hailed his decision to honor the EFCC invitation and answer questions about his 8-year tenure as governor, describing his action as exemplary. A coalition of civil society groups under the aegis of the Civil Society Legislative Advocacy Center, CISLAC, wants the President to release his administration's agenda on how he intends to fight corruption in the country. They are also asking President Bola Tinubu to avoid appointing persons of questionable character into his administration. Addressing a news conference in Abuja, the executive director of the group, Mr. Awal Rafsanjani, called for a national commitment of the government in sanitizing the nation.
This is necessary in order to give confidence to Nigerians and international community that his government is not going to be populated with crooks, criminals, people with allegation of corruption, and people who have bought their way and capture power for personal use. It is important that he makes such commitment. And once he does that and follow with sincere action, then it is possible that we can begin to redeem our confidence, and international community will also, have more confidence in our country, and they will be able to invest. It is important for the sake of our country progress that Ahmed Tinubu, President Bola Tinubu, should declare serious commitment and action. It's not just to make the talk, but also to follow it with action. And this includes ensuring that people with corruption allegation, people that are under investigation, are not even considered for any appointment. If he does that, he is going to send a wrong signal to the international community, to Nigerians, that the business will go as usual. And we hope that should not be the case.
Nigerians mourning the founder of Dar Communications PLC, Chief Raymond Dokpesi, have been urged to emulate the good deeds of the media entrepreneur. This admonition was given by the Catholic Archbishop of Abuja Diocese, Archbishop Ignatius Kaigama, during a requiem mass organized in honor of Chief Dokpesi at the Church of the Assumption, Asokoro, Abuja. Our correspondent Victor Matthias reports.
Family, friends, political and business associates and invited guests are seated in the main auditorium of the Church of the Assumption, Asokoro, Abuja, as a requiem mass is held in honor of the late founder of Dar Communications PLC, High Chief Raymond Dokpesi. Leading the procession to signal the commencement of the Mass is His Eminence John Cardinal Onayekon and the Archbishop of the Abuja Diocese, Ignatius Kaigama. The choir was on hand, singing songs to express convictions and feelings that words alone may fail to convey, and to console and uplift the congregation. Amongst them are Governor Godwin Obaseki of Edo State, former governors Udom Emmanuel of Akwa Ibom State, and Governor Hope Uzodinma of Imo State, the newly appointed National Security Advisor, Mr. Nuhu Ribadu, as well as the management of Channels TV Abuja, amongst others. The officiating ministers extolled his virtue and contributions to the church, humanity, and the broadcast industry.
Through the sacrifice of this Mass, we beg and ask God to forgive his sins and shortcomings, and to command that his name be written in the book of life. And as he leaves the land of the dying, may God graciously admit him in the land of the living.
We allow good people to die for nothing. So this should be a lesson. Imagine people, yesterday at the Day of Tribute, people came from all over, everybody speaking gloriously about him. And in this church again, if this was such a good Nigerian, why did we waste him?
The family is grateful for the kind words.
We're deeply moved by the outpouring of love and support for our family. Your presence, your prayers, and kind words have been a great source of comfort to us during this difficult time.
To strengthen the bond of the congregants who are all part of the body of Christ on earth, a communion was served.
Was a man who stood for justice, was a fearless voice, a courageous voice, a voice for the voiceless, a man who fought people's causes without caring where they come from.
When we attend a funeral, a burial ceremony like this, and then people list all his good virtues, the issue is, are we struggling on a daily basis to live out these virtues?
At any time you knock at him, he will listen to you. He has never had any reason to say no. For any reason he says no, he has to give you an explanation why he's saying no, turning you down on a particular issue.
Death to many is a necessary end, but to some, a necessary beginning, and the legacies left behind by High Chief Raymond Dokpesi will mark the beginning of his legendary status in all spheres and sectors that he played in and touched the lives of many.
Let's now head to the nation's capital, and Victor Matthias is indeed standing by at our Abuja studios. Hello, Victor.
Hi, Ayotunde. Welcome to the nation's capital, Abuja. Now, as Nigeria joins the rest of the world to mark the International Day of Countering Hate Speech, the United Nations is warning against the dangers associated with divisive comments. The United Nations Resident Coordinator, Mr. Matthias Schmaler, further reiterates the commitment of the United Nations to fight against hate speech.
Hate speech has fueled conflicts, threatens and has threatened and undermines human rights and efforts to build inclusive and just societies. Hate speech is not only used to distract from important social issues, but often to stoke fear and division, inciting violence and exacerbating tensions. Unfortunately, social media and digital platforms in particular are being used to spread disinformation and hate to considerable numbers of people around the globe. Allow me to note that earlier this year we commemorated 2 days related to genocide, the International Holocaust Day and Rwanda Genocide Day. And I'm mentioning that because through both of those commemorations, it was hit home to us again that both these genocides started with hate speech. So, of course, we're not saying in Nigeria we're about to witness this. We're simply saying if we don't tackle hate speech at its origins, the consequences could be extremely dire.
Now, still ahead on the news at 10, Afrexim Bank signs a $400 million agreement with a private company to develop industrial parks and special economic zones in several African countries. That's in business news. Please stay with us.
Now available in new flavors.
Every morning is an opportunity to take your hustle to the next level. Every morning is one day closer to your ambition. So, make every morning count. Cup after cup, morning after morning. Start strong, finish strong. Nescafe.
Recover with Astamin, a blend of amino acids and multivitamins.
This is the University of Africa. Here, everybody has a degree of something. But the most important qualification is imagination. Her reason to imagine is slay. His reason is to be the GOAT. Theirs is to take the beat and make it lit. They want to test edgy till it is fire. Their reason for imagination is to add riz in style. And their reason for imagination is just stunt. So no matter what your situation, just use your imagination.
Many thanks for staying with us. Now, the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, is seeking new ways to strengthen its structures and strategies in the fight against financial crimes and cybercrime in the West African sub-region, including long-term collaborations. This is according to the acting chairman of the EFCC, Mr. Abdul Karim Chukol, at the opening of the Cybercrime Peer Exchange Program in collaboration with the Economic and Organized Crime Office of Ghana. The heads of the two organizations believe that shared interactions and experiences will help both countries respond better to the threat of cyber and financial crime.
essence of this meeting today, or I would say that this occasion today, is for us to work together with the Ghana IOCO, which is the economic organized crime office of Ghana, which is like a similar organization like ours. So, and as you all know, that crimes today are transnational. And there's a need for us to work together, because if you look at the African sub-region, most especially West Africa, Nigeria and Ghana, actually we share quite a lot. And mostly, again, if we come together, we are going to now engage in peer exchange of ideas, of experience, of best practices in the fight against economic and financial crimes. So what I believe is our engagement with the Ghana IOCO will actually further strengthen our working relationship, whereby we will now work together to see that criminals who run away from Nigeria or vice versa will not go scot-free.
You can have a crime committed in Ghana and you can have some of the suspects in Nigeria or any other places. So there's a need for international cooperation. And when you look at the laws of EFCC and IOCO, we have a lot of similarities. And they have been in existence for a long time. And when you look at the work they do, they are stronger, they are more structured. So we decided to come to Nigeria to learn from them. What is it that they have done that they've been successful that Ghana can also learn?
Now, with the new administration now in place, there is the need to kickstart critical and informed discourse centered on the overhauling of the practices, nuances and laws that govern finance in Nigeria. This formed part of discussions at the Fiscal Options and Post-Election Governance series organized by Nigeria's civic tech organization, Budget, in collaboration with the MacArthur Foundation. The focus of the conference, which held in Lagos, was to examine in detail how Nigeria can substantially improve her overall economic competitiveness.
And it's Federation Academy, all of us.
It's a gathering of high-level policymakers and experts from governments and intergovernmental organizations, CEOs and decision-makers from the private sector, among others.
And they are one of those who've really shown...
For Budget's global director, the Fiscal Business Series will set the tone for issues and reforms on the cost of governance.
What's going to be the culture of the new government on play? Is it going to be accountable to the people? Is it going to be efficient? Is it going to focus on optimal service delivery for the people? Is it going to be pro-people, or is it going to be pro just the political class?
Thank you very much for that.
Managing Director and CEO of Sterling Bank PLC, Abubakar Suleiman, who doubles as the keynote speaker of the series, outlines key elements required for effective governance.
How bad is the debt crisis? I mean, everybody keeps talking about the debt crisis. First, it was a debate of, oh, do we have a debt problem? Do we have a revenue problem? I'm one of those atheists that says that it's a revenue problem. I mean, people say, oh, but you can't spend until you have. That's true. That's a governance problem. But the actual problem we face is not that we have too much debt. In fact, we are heavily under-leveraged as a country. The problem is that we have not optimized the balance sheet, both the people and the non-people side. So we do not, I'm not saying borrow more. I'm saying even if you stop borrowing today, you haven't solved the nation's problem. The nation needs a lot more capital to grow, to build. You don't stop building. And we have the capacity to be able to borrow the money to build. So I do agree that we need to fix our current issues with, debt service to revenue and all of that. But I don't think that's the solution for a long-term problem of prosperity.
And other guest speakers at the event have a message for the new administration.
Use technology for tax intelligence. I already told government, forget about tax identification number. We are not at that point. When I hear tax identification number for registering vehicle and stuff, I'll go and register in the name of my grandma in the village. She has nothing to do with the economic system. Or I'll use my 4-year-old. I'll still ride the car.
Most women in tech drop out within the first 10 years. And that's for so many reasons. Sometimes it's workplace policies, unfriendly workplace, harassment in the workplace. But I think a biggest part of it is women who are not even encouraged to pursue technology in the first place.
The program also featured a question and answer session with discussions around opportunities in the 2023 budget, fiscal options in a post-election environment, as well as key elements required for effective governance in the new cycle.
That's it from the nation's capital. It's back to Ayatunde in Lagos with the rest of the news at 10.
Many thanks, Victor. Sustaining the environment through renewable energy and a green economy was top on the conversations at a one-day seminar in Lagos. The event was courtesy of foremost cement producers of Lafarge Africa Limited, which brought professionals and government officials together to define a path to sustainable development at its Concrete Ideas 6.0 event. According to participants at the event, the practice of recycling materials during pre- and post-productions will aid nations and companies achieve zero emission of carbon dioxide in the future.
Conversion of waste to energy is the focus of this conference, as many professionals and organizations now acknowledge the adverse effects of carbon dioxide emission on the environment. Lafarge Limited, one of Africa's largest cement producers, is in Lagos to continue its public awareness on green environment and sustainable energy, as conversations around renewable energy and green environment are at the fore of this year's conference in its 6th edition.
Our Concrete Ideas journey has been one of collaboration and positive impact. Through Concrete Ideas, Lafarge Africa has over 2 years assembled thought leaders from the public and private sectors to deliberate on policies to promote investment and best practices in the construction and allied sectors.
Technologies to be able to harness this.
The event brings together government officials, professionals and private entities to aid the growth of a green economy and renewable energy in Nigeria and Africa as a whole. Speaking on the sideline, a professional shares the importance of renewable energy.
The renewable energy will first of all help to reduce the carbon footprint, of CO2 in the atmosphere, and also for the organizations. Then number 2 is going to provide a cheaper way of powering those organizations over time.
With a promise to continue investing in environment-friendly projects, Lafarge management sheds more light on the philosophy behind the green project.
It's about reducing our carbon footprint, and it's also about managing waste efficiently and collaborating with different organizations to ensure that our footprint, when it comes to waste, that we contribute our quota into this.
We want to preserve the country, the economy, the environment, and we have to be sustainable. So everything around sustainability, from decarbonization, from waste management, from preserving value of the materials that we produce, improving consumer behaviors, everything. So that's the rationale behind the event.
As platforms like this from the private sector spring up in Nigeria and Africa, the call for more collaboration with governments across board is resounded, with hopes that the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals will be achieved.
In other company news, shareholders of the Central Securities Clearing System PLC have passed a vote of confidence on the company, which they describe as a company of the future. The shareholders were speaking during the 29th annual general meeting of the securities company in Lagos. The company declared a total dividend of 6.8 billion naira with a promise of direct payment of the dividend to each shareholder's bank.
It's the 29th annual general meeting of the Central Securities Clearing System PLC, bringing shareholders together in this hall in Lagos while others join virtually.
And we can therefore proceed with the business of the meeting.
This meeting is to, among other things, receive and consider the company's audited financial statement for the year ended December 31st, 2022, elect and re-elect retiring directors, and declare a dividend. With a gross earnings of 11.5 billion naira, an increase of 9.5% over the previous year, and a profit of 5.1 billion naira, the company is declaring a dividend of 87 kobo and a one-time special dividend of 50 kobo per share.
When we started, it was tough. There was a lot of opposition to introducing a central securities depository into the Nigerian space. But over time, people got used to it. It became more efficient. And today, You can declare dividend and pay same day. You can, it's highly automated. So our journey has been one of progressive growth.
It's good outing regardless. The company promises to sustain its strategic strength.
This strategy we put in place started in 2021, just post-COVID. And what we've seen is that, in what people are looking for, business are looking for are solutions. How do you take away, a turnaround time from 1 hour to 1 minute, from 1 minute to 1 second, from 1 second to nanoseconds? And if you look at global markets generally, people are talking about atomic settlements.
Shareholders are not only happy with the dividend and the performance of the company, but also excited about its future.
A company that pays a stronger dividend, people were happy and applaud. That's what we did this morning at the floor of AGM. At this headwind, a lot of companies are scratching how to make ends meet. Some of them are paying lesser dividend. But if a company, that's based on what they're doing, they're on track, they're doing very well. So the future is very, very bright.
CSCS flaunts the bragging right as being Nigeria's first financial market infrastructure. The company processes securities in electronic book entry form and provides an effective single access point for all post-trade services in the Nigerian financial market, covering all forms of capital and money market securities.
It's now time for business news, and Joke Rogers is standing by. Joke?
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you, Ayo. Nigeria and several other African countries stand to benefit from a $400 million deal between the African Export-Import Bank and a private company, Arise Integrate Industrial Platforms, to facilitate the development of industrial parks around the continent. The amount is a tranche of the proposed $1 billion global credit facility for the continent. It represents a continuation of the support provided by Afreximbank, with over $700 million spent over the past decade for special projects in Gabon, Togo, and Benin Republic. And as the Afrexim meeting winds down in Ghana, attention has been directed to raising capital for businesses in Africa to stimulate growth. One of the panelists, the managing director of the Bank of Industry, Olukayode Piton, says wants the idle funds to be put into productive use.
I have a 60-minute clock. We have 10 people.
The other thing that we have learned is that, look, Africa has a lot of capital. Many countries, you talk of the pension funds, you talk of domestic savings, but most of these funds in foreign exchange are in foreign banks. We need to create African champions. Can we put some of those monies in Afrexim? Can we put some of those monies in AFC and some of the regional banks and back them up to make them bigger? They say Africa is risky, but from statistics, Africa actually, in terms of defaults, it has lower default than many of the other regions that have better ratings. Are the rating agencies fair to Africa?
We are now having an offering of a different paradigm and a different bouquet of financial support that you are able to give us, because there is no point, and as the MD of BOI mentioned, there is no point for us to have money stuck elsewhere, and our industries in the country are deprived of funds. In Nigeria, for instance, we have 13 trillion naira in pension funds. And this should be put in the hands of responsible, time-tested, and very supportive banks.
From there, we head to the Nigerian stock market, which ended the day marginally higher as bargain hunting in Seplat and some other bellwether equities added 51 billion naira to the overall market value. John Mekwa tells us more. Thank you you so much, Joker. Welcome to the Stock Market Report. Well, 50 gainers, 19 losers, a positive market breadth, and a 52 billion naira gain on the total market value. That's what the all-share index is telling us, with this green at 0.16% and 59,110.02. Also, the market cap is sustaining the 32 trillion naira. Guess what else we have in the market at the close of trade? It's the bull. So Seplat is the star that made the oil and gas counter shine today. It gained 14 naira at the close of trade. That made the oil and gas sector to go up almost 1.5%. Maybe it's the subsidy, I don't know. But banking is also up marginally 0.02%. Consumer goods also marginally up 0.06%. Looking at the activity chart, it's red. It's not like yesterday's. Lower compared to what the numbers were yesterday. But we still have high numbers there. From the value even to the deal, still looking good at the close of trade. So it's the second trading day for the week. We're still doing positive, even though we're getting close to the edge. But we would do better tomorrow, hopefully. That's the Stock Market Report. I'm Ini John Mekwa. Back to you, Joker. Thank you, Ini. Now let's find out how the global markets ended Tuesday's trading session. That's business news. All the news at 10. Ayo, back to you.
Banking so easy, so simple. Dial *894# now to experience it. You first, First Bank.
Thank you so much, Joker. Well, the missing tourist submersible is supposed to provide passengers a close enough view of the wreck of the famous ship, that's Titanic. And we learned that British-Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood and his son Suleiman are two of the 5 people on board. The Dawood family is one of Pakistan's richest. Dawood is a trustee at the SETI Institute, an organization researching the origins and prevalence of life and intelligence in the universe. Only few submersibles capable of taking people 4,000 meters below the ocean surface exist. And the company behind the expedition, Ocean Gate, says it's one of the only private companies in the world that has one. Here's Simon Pusey with more on this and other international stories and around the world in 5.
Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Search teams are racing against time to find a tourist submarine that went missing during a dive to the wreck of the Titanic. British-Pakistani businessman Shahzada Dawood and his son Suleiman are 2 of the 5 on board. Another of those believed to be in the craft is British businessman and explorer Hamish Harding, a billionaire here pictured with his wife in 2019, attempting an around-the-world record for an aircraft. Contact with the small sub was lost about an hour and 45 minutes into its dive to the wreck site on Sunday. The site of the famous Titanic wreck is about 600 kilometres off the coast of Newfoundland and lies in 2 parts, with the bow and the stern separated by about 800 metres. A full dive to the wreck, including the descent and ascent, reportedly takes 8 hours. It is thought the crew members had 4 days' worth of oxygen left at most.
The location of the search is approximately 900 miles east of Cape Cod, in a water depth of roughly 13,000 feet. It is a remote area, and it is a challenge to conduct a search in that remote area, but we are deploying all available assets to make sure that we can locate the craft and rescue the people on board.
Russian drones have targeted the capital Kyiv and other cities in the early hours of Tuesday, hitting critical infrastructure in Lviv in the west. That's according to Ukrainian officials. Ukraine's Air Force say 35 drones were launched and all but 3 shot down. The local authorities say the attack on Lviv triggered a fire, but no one was injured. The raid on Kyiv and a missile attack on Zaporizhia in the south were both described as massive. Controversial influencer Andrew Tate has been charged in Romania with rape, human trafficking and forming an organised crime group to sexually exploit women. His brother Tristan and 2 associates have also been charged. All have denied the allegations. The Tate brothers were first arrested at their Bucharest home in December. In March, they were moved from custody to house arrest following a ruling by a Romanian judge. The indictment, deposited with the Bucharest court, says that the 4 defendants formed an organised criminal group in 2021 to commit human trafficking in Romania, but also in other countries, including the United States and the UK. It names 7 alleged victims who it says were recruited by the Tate brothers through false promises of love and marriage. French police are searching the headquarters of the organisers of the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. Officials say the raids are part of 2 preliminary corruption investigations. The probes are reportedly in connection with the attribution of contracts for building projects linked to the Summer Games. A spokesperson for the Paris 2024 organising committee said the body was cooperating fully with the investigators. The warring military factions in Sudan have accused each other of violating the latest temporary ceasefire. The Sudanese army said the paramilitary rapid support forces had carried out an attack in North Darfur for a 2nd consecutive day. On Monday, the Red Cross said the ceasefire was not being respected and they had to abort an operation to transfer wounded soldiers to a hospital. Earlier, residents in the capital Khartoum reported a lull in fighting, saying they had heard no airstrikes, artillery or other fighting there. US and Saudi mediators had announced the 72-hour truce on Saturday. Previous truces have been poorly observed. And 4 Chinese water deer, also known as vampire deer because of their sharp fangs, will be moved to London Zoo in July, where they will be protected from predators. The fawns are currently being hand-reared at Whipsnade Zoo in Bedfordshire, the UK's largest conservation zoo. They weighed a little over 400 grams when they were born, which is the same as a can of soft drink. Once they are settled at London Zoo, visitors will be able to see them. The species have been listed as vulnerable on the ICUN Red List of threatened species as their populations are diminishing due to habitat loss and hunting. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.
Thanks, Simon. It's now time for sports. It will be down to the wires when Bendel Insurance and Enugu Rangers slug it out in the final of the country's oldest football competition, the Federation Cup at the Stephen Keshi Stadium in Asaba on Wednesday. Rangers is looking to make it a 7th win to close the gap held by Shooting Stars of Ibadan, who have won it a record 8 times, while the Benin Arsenal will be chasing a 4th title. Now, Germany has officially presented a mascot for the 2024 UEFA European Football Championship earlier today. The large-headed teddy bear-like figure wears a colorful football jersey, socks, boots, and shorts in contrast to the 2006 World Cup mascot. And do you know, today marks 1 month to the start of the 2023 FIFA Women's World Cup, which will be co-hosted by Australia and New Zealand. The 9th edition of the tournament, which is the first Women's World Cup to be held in the Southern Hemisphere, will kick off in Sydney and Auckland on July the 20th, when Australia's Matildas and New Zealand's football fans will play their opening matches. And that's it on sports. Thank you for watching. It's back to you, Ayotunde.
Many thanks, Jeffrey. And the main news again. The Presidential Election Petition Court today demanded proof from the Labour Party that it served INEC resident electoral commissioners across the nation summons to provide electoral documents. That's the news at 10 tonight. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ayotunde Balogun. Do have a good night.
Welcome everyone to Political Paradigm. I am Terry Ikumi. Now, it's an interesting political season for us in Nigeria. The 2023 general elections have come and gone, but we now prepare for the off-season elections to hold in November this year. And also, the Tinubu administration is in full swing. These are some of the conversations that we will hold going forward on Political Paradigm. Today, my guest is a senator representing Borno North Senatorial District. He is also a former member of the House of Representatives. Specifically, he was in the 9th Assembly. He is a former chief whip of the 9th House of Representatives, Honorable, I'll have to get used to it, distinguished. He is now a senator, Senator Mohammed Monguno. Welcome to Political Paradigm.
It's a pleasure meeting you.
You see, I have to struggle with that. You've only been in the Senate for a few days, but you spent quite a while. You spent 5 terms, I believe, in the House of Representatives. So I should start off the conversation by saying congratulations. And how's it been in this past few days as a senator?
Well, thank you for the congratulations and best wishes. It is really very exciting, and it's a dream come true.
Is there a difference in experience from being a senator and that of a House of Representatives member?
Well, practically, there is no difference as such, because the process of lawmaking in the Senate and the House of Representatives are virtually the same. But the only difference is in terms of environment and the type of people that you are going to relate with. While in the House of Representatives, it consists of young people with all the youthful exuberance and then the vibrancy of youthfulness and what have you. In the Senate, it consists of elders, former governors, former ministers, former ambassadors, and what have you. In fact, at 57, I will be among some of the youngest amongst the senators. So it is the environment that is completely different. While in the Senate, you are dealing with elders, people that have reached the pinnacle of their career, people that have retired from public service are now in politics and what have you. So it's the environment and the people that you relate with that is the difference. But in terms of process of lawmaking and what have you, it's virtually the same.
Absolutely. You know, the House of Representatives is closer to the people than the Senate. And so I'm curious to find out from you. You were a member of the House of Representatives in 1992. You came back to the House of Representatives in 2007. You've been there. You were there till this year when you crossed over to the Senate. So what informed your decision to move from the House of Representatives to the Senate, considering the fact that I know I've spoken with a lot of lawmakers who believe that the interactions they have with their constituents, because they are closer to them, and it's a smaller group of people they have to relate with compared to a senator who has to relate to an entire senatorial district. What informed your decision to go from the House to the Senate?
Well, my decision, what informed my decision to go from the House to the Senate is both personal and generality of clamor by the people of the senatorial district. One, during my tenure as a member of the House of Representatives, I have attracted a lot of developmental projects to my federal constituency, especially against the backdrop of the fact that my federal constituency was devastated as a result of the Boko Haram insurgency. Our economy is in a state of comatose. Our infrastructure has been completely destroyed. Our people has been displaced and what have you. So during my tenure as a member of the House of Representatives, I have attracted a lot of developmental projects of empowerment of youth and women who are displaced as a result of this insurgency but have now returned back to their communities to pick the pieces of their lives. I've embarked upon massive empowerment of youth and women, just like the Marshall Plan after the World War, of trying to rehabilitate, reconstruct our destroyed communities in the 3 local governments that constitute the federal constituency of Marte Mongunonganze that are represented for 5 terms. And then this federal constituency neighbors 2 other federal constituencies that constitute the senatorial district. And I was able to attract these laudable developmental projects, leveraging on my office as the chief whip of the House of Representatives. And that brought about the clamor from the generality of the senatorial district
for you to come to the
for
Senate.
Me to come to the Senate so that they can also get the benefits of dividends of democracy that I'm now bringing to my federal constituency. So there was a general clamor, a clarion call from all the nooks and crannies of the senatorial district for me to come to the Senate so that they can also enjoy the benefits of dividends of democracy that are being bringing to my immediate federal. And then again, my ambition in life, as a human being, you have to have an ambition. My ambition in life is to earn the title senator before I retire from politics. That is my ambition all in life, is to earn that title. Even today, if I'm retired, I'm satisfied, I am an accomplished man. My life ambition is to be a senator. So coupled with these 2 reasons, I now coupled with the clamor by the larger senatorial districts to come and represent them in the Senate, and my own personal ambition of earning that title, Senator Mohamed Tahir Monguno, drove me to contest for the senatorial seat, and by the grace of God, I am in the Senate now.
I think it's interesting that those 2 reasons coincide, your ambition, rather, and then the reward system of a senatorial district. But that's a conversation for another day. But what you've said and how long you've spent at the National Assembly, you've done 1992, then 2007 till date, from the House of Representatives to the Senate. What then do you say to people who question why one lawmaker should continue to return when others could get the opportunity to represent their constituencies or senatorial districts?
I think the one advice that I would give Nigerians is that there is tremendous advantage of continuously returning
a lawmaker
either to the Senate or to the House. And this is purely as a result of the experience that you are going to gather over the years, serving either as a senator or as a member, will tremendously impact on how you are going to deliver dividends of democracy to the doorsteps of your people. So your ability to deliver is a function of how long you have stayed in the legislative house. This is what my experience has shown, and the experience of others have shown while standing in the National Assembly. Because the more you stay, the more you will know the nuances and the nitty-gritty of legislation and how you can find your way to attract developmental projects to your constituencies and what have you. But in Nigeria, unfortunately, because of the heterogeneous nature of our society and in the various divisions that we have in our society, that you see today is the turn of local government A to go to the House of Reps, or tomorrow is the turn of local government B to go to the Senate. In fact, in some communities, it has cascaded down to clan representation, from this clan to the other clan.
So you think that rotational politics is not favorable?
It's not, at least in the National Assembly, it's not favorable. Because the more your representative returns to the National Assembly, the more he will be energized and have all the experience and the wherewithal to attract dividends of democracy to your constituency. But unfortunately in Borno State, particularly in my senatorial district, it is homogeneous in nature. We are one tribe, one religion. We are only divided into local governments and what have you because of constitutional demarcations and what have you. We are homogeneous.